So as we just saw, if we hold the price of the other good, so price of good 2, an income constant, and draw out this relationship between, what happens to x1, the amount of x1 as we change p1, we got the demand function, right? That's kind of what we saw. So if we hold p2 and m constant, and plot p1 against x1, we get the demand function. I'm supposed to say demand, sorry, demand. And we saw it's kind of, usually downward sloping. Where the exception were these given goods. Now, if instead we think about plotting the price P1 as a function of x1, we're going to call that the inverse demand function. So if we do have a downward sloping demand function, downward sloping demand curve, we can talk about the inverse demand function. So we plot P1 as a function of x1. So price is a function of quantity. It's the exact same relationship as the demand curve. It's the exact same curve. But now instead of thinking about x1 being a function of price, we're thinking price being as a function of x1. So it looks at the same relationship. Just using, so it's looking at the same relationship, just a different way. So instead of thinking of x1 as a function of price, we're thinking price as a function of x1. So let's quickly erase this and kind of talk about it and give a quick example of what I mean by this. So if we want to draw it out, it's the exact same. We have price up here and x1 here, and we're just drawing this relationship. And here now, we'll put price of 1. P1 is a function of x1, and this is what we might call the inverse demand function. So demand inverse demand function, it's the same relationship, just looking at it from a different side, different side of the same coin, so to speak. So for example, with Cobb-Douglas, we knew, or we learned, that the demand function for good 1 was equal to A m over P1. And so this is if we have the utility is equal to x1 to the A, x2 to the 1 minus A. And hopefully that shows up on the screen. But we're using the Cobb-Douglas, or the exponent on good 1 is A, and the exponent on good 2 is 1 minus A, that monotonic transformation. So this is the demand function that we learned about, right? The amount of x1 is a function of price. Well, we could rearrange this and get the inverse demand function, which is just this. So it's the exact same thing, we're just looking at it from a different side. That's all I'm trying to say here. And what's nice about this is we can think about the meaning of the inverse demand function. So let's quickly erase this board and kind of explore that meaning.